It's great that you all are here. Good morning, and just wanted to touch on a couple things before we get started. I know I speak for myself, and I believe I speak for our staff and for our players. It's great to be back. We are all recharged and ready. That doesn't mean that we ever took our foot off the gas. It's been on the gas since we've all been together. But what I will tell you is when the guys walk back in the door the day that they report for training camp, it's a different vibe, and it's really cool to be a part of that. And I know that they're just as excited as I am, and our enthusiasm as a staff matches theirs, so we're excited to get started. We are always defensively and even individually and as people, as we go through our lives in the process of becoming something. I think that I'm a lifetime learner, and I hope our players look at it the same way. I know that we're not the people we want to be yet, but we're sure glad we're not the people we used to be. We're all getting better all the time, and I think that that's an important part of what we're trying to instill defensively, is that we are all in a process, and that process has to continue to move down the road in everything that we do and every day. I believe that the best way to have a competitive team is to build a really competitive roster, and that's a testament to what Coach Loxley and this staff has done over the last year and beyond of putting together a very competitive group of football players. When you have a competitive roster, that leads to depth, and when you have depth, then that allows you to build a number of different systems and put things in place that allow for different players to use their dominant traits as often as possible, and that's the goal defensively. With our roster, I feel like we've got, just talking position by position, I think we've got a great group, a good amount of depth on the defensive front. I think that we've got some players that are emerging and ascending. I think we've got some established guys that still don't have a ton of experience because they're still young, but I think they're good players. At the outside linebacker group, which is the group I'm working with, we are very young, and we are talented, and we are fast, and we're long, and we're smart, and we're tough, and all the things that we're looking for in that group. And I think that that group, as in most systems and most programs, that's going to be a really important group to our success as we move through it. Our inside linebacker group, we've got the bell cow of our defense in that group, and Daniel Wingate. He's had an unbelievable offseason, and I know that with all of the things that he had as requirements over the summertime, it didn't slow him down one bit from him remaining in his process of becoming the best he can be possibly for our football team. Now, then you move into the back end, guys, and I think our safeties group is strong. I think our corners group is emerging and ascending. I think that there are some things in the back end that we're still trying to figure out. What is it that we're best at? What can we do well? And who are our guys that can make plays? That leads me into the next part of the thing. I think the priority over the next 25 days is going to be to find out who we are as individuals and who we are as a defense, as a collective unit. And we have enough variety in the system that as we go through the next 25 days, I think we'll have a really clear picture of what we are by the time we get to the opener. This place is a special place. I've spent some time in this part of the country in my time in Baltimore, and it's great to be back. And I heard a question about recruiting and about this area. If this wasn't such a great area, everybody in the country wouldn't recruit here. This is a great area, and the opportunity to keep some great players close to home is a high priority to us as we look at, especially in my position as the defensive coordinator, as defensive players as we move forward. So thrilled to be back, thrilled to be here today with you all, and I'm available to answer any questions that you might have.
Yeah, Gene Wong, the Washington Post. Mike was talking about generating pass rush without adding people. Just what's your vision of how that can happen schematically and with the personnel you have in the locker room?
Yeah, I've spent a lot of time studying that, Gene. That's a great question. And the teams that have rushers are good rushing teams. The teams that don't, they struggle, and they have to create, and they have to manufacture different things. I think we've got some guys that can win on their own. it's a pretty small sample size simply because I haven't seen him rush against other people's players. I've seen him rush against our players. I've seen us be effective in some situations and productive in others. Of course, we don't hit our quarterbacks in practice, so it's hard to know what rushes are effective and productive. But I will tell you that I've got a bunch of hungry pass rushers. I've got guys with rush traits. I'm not a traits guy. I'm a production and effect guy. But I think I've got enough. We have enough guys in my position group outside that can win on their own, that we can be productive. Inside, I think that it's about where we put guys and how we use them and what tools we allow them to use from down to down. And I think we've got a couple guys that are really twitchy and can win on their own in short space. So I know that that's a high priority to coach, and I think that there are things that we can do schematically that get guys singled up in different ways that I think when we can take advantage of an athletic mismatch, I think we'll be in a position that we can do that.
Hey, Ted. Sam Jane, Baltimore Sun. I wanted to ask you, what pulled you to Maryland, and what was the first phone call that you had with Loxley like?
Yeah, it's another good question. So, what pulled me to Maryland? I'm at the point in my career that it's about helping good people win. It's not about, I've been in big stadiums, I've been in big moments. It's about I believe it's a great job if you like where you live, you like the guys you work with, and you have a chance to win. That's what I was attracted to. And I think that we have all three of those things here. As having some experience in the area, that also was a little bit of an added bonus that I wasn't sure that I was going to have, because when you go through that search process, and I'm searching for jobs, they're all over the country, and I've done that now for 35 years. So being out on the moon for 35 years is not great to be able to ever establish anything roots-wise with your family. The first phone call actually came, I talked with Coach in 2018 when he hired, I believe John Hoke was the guy he hired at that time. Coach knew at that point that this was a place that I had an interest in. That was right after I had left Indianapolis as the coordinator, and talking with Coach at that point, there was some mutual interest there. And since then, I know on my side of that equation, I've kept great track of what Coach has done here, and got a great amount of respect for what he's done here. And I think that when he had some change coming down the pike defensively, I think that I was a name that was brought up around the building a few times, not only by Locks, but by some other guys that I know. And my first actual phone call was from Brian Griffin, and Brian and I worked together. Griffin and I worked together in Atlanta. So he knew that I would have an interest. I knew that he was here, so that was the first phone call.
And then I guess you just talked about working with good people. Obviously, with the disappointing year Loxley had last year, and kind of some of the interesting narratives that are surrounding him entering year 7, how much do you take responsibility, like guys like you and Pep, to really kind of ensure that your head coach isn't being thrown around in hot seat talks and things like that?
That's job one for every assistant coach, and if it's not, then ego gets in the way and some of those things. My job is to help Coach Locks be as successful as possible, because the one thing I learned in Baltimore was that when you win, there's enough to go around for everybody, and we won a lot of games there. And my job is to help Coach Locks be successful. When Coach Locks is successful, there's enough for everybody. And that part of it with Coach has been really refreshing. He and I have had great conversations about what his expectations are defensively, how I see certain things compared to how he sees certain things. And there's a clear division of who the head coach, I completely understand who the head coach is, but when we talk football, we can talk openly, and we can speak freely, and we can compare, and we can speak as peers, and that part of it's been really fun for me. So job one, help the head coach be successful.
Hey, Coach, how you doing?
Good. How are you? Thank you.
Simon Buggs with CTV News.
Yes, sir.
I was wondering, with as far as spring ball goes, what are your biggest takeaways from that period, and what do you want to make sure the team keeps up during this 25-day training camp stretch?
Right. I think the biggest takeaway was how willing our guys are. They were not pigeonholed into roles. They weren't settled and boxed into certain techniques and certain schemes and certain structure. So all of the things that we added, we were able to strike it clean and start back over and build them from the ground up, which is a really tough thing for players sometimes, because they have a tendency to use old language and try to apply it to a new system, and then things get sideways and cross-wired in their heads sometimes. These guys didn't do that at all, so I know how willing they are. And number one, I really believe that it's so important to them that they want to get better fast. I think the term we've used is quantum leap. We've used it a lot. We want to make sure that understanding that for us to make the quantum leap, to go from step A to step G, right, that's a quantum leap. And for us to do that, it's going to take a great amount of focus and a great amount of commitment from everybody in the room.
Absolutely, and one more question. I heard you touched on the DB room a couple minutes ago. One guy from that room I want to ask you about is Braden Lee, who's from this area. Tell me, what do you like about him, and what do you feel like he can add to this defense in 2025?
We look at, there's a couple things that we put up in front of our whole group, and I believe in talking about football character. This was an Ozzie Newsome thing. This was from other places that I've been. Football character to me is smart, tough, effort-filled, great teammate, no excuses. That's Braden Lee. High football character. The kid has great courage. He's got leadership genes in him. He had a spring where he was able to show the dominant physical traits that he carries. As a young player, sometimes those you have to look for them. You have to find them, right? Because it's not on display all the time. Sometimes he's not challenged. Sometimes the ball doesn't find him. But when he had his opportunities to make an impact in practice, he did it at a really high level. And he's a super kid that cares about all the right things. And those are guys that you root for.
Dave Preston, WTOP Radio here in Washington. With all the new pieces, all the new transfers and everyone coming in, which unit is the most challenging to get up to speed for opening day, and how do you go about doing that?
Well, probably surprisingly enough, maybe the defensive line, even though, right, we're not trying to hit the moon with a rocket, especially up there. Right, but I will tell you that's a big group. It's a group that has a number of players that have different traits, and those traits, we can find ways to utilize those traits in a lot of different areas. Right, some guy might be a first and second down grunt, where another guy might be a third down interior pass rusher. So what we've got, that's the hardest thing that we've got a lot of balls in the air right now, and the order that they come down in, that's going to be really important. Right, so we've got to find spots for all of those guys that we think can help us win. Right, the guys that can play winning defense and winning football for us. The biggest group is always the hardest to pigeonhole or to pencil in what those roles would be. The back end is always a little bit of a work in progress, simply because, yeah, they've got time and distance because they're further away from the ball, so they got a chance to unwind some things. But that's also when a defensive tackle makes a mistake, sometimes it's a 6-yard gain. When a safety makes a mistake, a lot of times it's a touchdown. So there's a lot of pressure on all of us to elevate, as Coach likes to use that term.
Hey, Coach. Jacob Steinberg with the Baltimore Sun. You talked about earlier how at the various levels of this defense there is some youth and inexperience. Obviously, there are some challenges that come with that, but just also, how do you feel like that youth can be beneficial in a way that a lot of those players have a similar learning curve and they can kind of grow as a group and progress as a group?
Well, I think that what you see with young players is you see, just like you would with anything that's young, right? You see a young puppy, sometimes he's all over the map. Our guys, they've done, like I mentioned at the very beginning, they've done an amazing job of collecting players here. The football IQ in a lot of our young players is really good. That doesn't mean that they don't get out of whack and sideways every now and then, but they're easy to redirect. And what I find is some of our young players are also some of our smartest players because they've been raised differently than some of those older veteran players. And what I see is some of those young guys are asking questions that really require a lot of thought, right? If I can see around corners to ask a question, hey, Coach, I love it, but what happens if they do this? That's what I need to hear from those guys. And when I hear that from those young players, that gives me a ton of confidence that I can push the envelope with those guys as much as possible. We are so young, but young, in my opinion, that's an advantage to us defensively. And the reason it's an advantage to us is because they're not going to worry. They're going to say, okay, Teddy, here's the thing. You call it, I'll execute it. They're not going to overthink anything. So we're going to put them out there. We're going to let them go hunt, and we're going to make it as simple as we can and let them play fast. Thank you, Coach. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.